Hey everybody, my name is Sam Deiter. I'm a technical writer here for Epic, and today I'm going to show you guys how you can set up your Samsung Galaxy smartphone with your GearVR headset. Before we get into it, a lot of what I'm going to be covering today is purely setup, and most of the stuff that I cover in the beginning you only have to do once, and then your project is good to go. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. If you look on my screen here, let me find my mouse really quick. This is the start to the VR guide here, and I'm going to run through this with you guys. This will be published. I'm not done with it yet. It still needs to be spell checked, and need to run through it a couple more times to make sure it's got all the right information in there for you guys. So first things first, first thing you need to make sure that you have to get the Gear VR set up and running is you need to make sure you have your phone. Okay, and USB cord, because that's how you transfer data back and forth between the phone. The next thing you need to do is you need to make sure that you actually have the right Galaxy Note 4. All the links that you're seeing here I will provide at the end in the chat. I'll dump the links in there. But this page right here will tell you the proper version of the phone that will be supported with the Gear VR headset. It's only these models right here that are supported at this present point in time. So once you find out what your model of your phone is, you can then know if it will actually work with this VR headset or not. The next thing that you need to do is you need to come over here to the Samsung's download page and then download the USB drivers for your phone. This is so that your phone can interact with the computer. If you don't download these drivers and install them, your phone won't be able to receive information from UE4. The next thing that you need to do is download Visual Studio's 2013. You can use the Express edition. Then you need to download the Tegra Android Developer Pack. Now this is all of the SDKs and all the various odds and ends that you need in order to package something for Android development. And it's actually very, very, very important that you install this, or else you're not going to be able to package, but you're also not going to be able to see your phone in the device manager. The next thing that you need to do is you need to put your phone into developer mode. And developer mode allows you to have ADB debugging, basically talk to your phone from your PC. We actually already have a page on how you can set up your Android device, which is right here, and tells you how to get into developer mode, which is actually really, really simple to do. And then finally, there's the Oculus signature file, the OSIG file. Now, this file is a unique identifier for your phone that needs to go in a very specific location so that you can then when you deploy it, your phone will be able to work with the headset. I'm going to show you how you get this. So once you've installed everything, once you have Tadpole installed, the USB drivers, all of that stuff, you can bring up a command window, or bring up the run window, and I typed in CMD to bring up the command prompt, and I'm going to hit ADB devices. And as you can see right here, I have my number, which is it's 21442A. If I right click on this, I can mark this. And what I'm trying to do here is I'm going to get that number. And then once I have that number, I paste it into the site. And then I can download the luckily I already have it downloaded. But I download this, and then I get this little file here. And let me bring up the file really quick for you. Hold on one second. There we go. And then I get this little OSIG file. Now, the place where you have to put this file is actually, very important. It needs to go into your... So we go to our engine, and this is our engine that we downloaded from the launcher. Okay, it goes into engine, and then it goes into build, Android, Java, and then assets. The assets folder you will have to create yourself, and make sure that you put it in the Android folder and not the Java folder, which I did last night, and if you do that, it will not work. So remember, it's got to go Android, Java, assets. So once you have that done, you are ready to start developing a project. So let me bring up the Unreal Editor, and let me pull this over here. So this is the new project browser. Now, the GearVR has to be based off of a C++ project. You cannot base it off of a Blueprint project. This is because it needs to compile some files into the binary that are needed for the GearVR to actually work. And the only way you can do this currently is for a C++ project. So what I'm going to do, new project browser, C++, we're going to do the first person template, and I'm going to drop this down to mobile, scalable 2D or 3D, and we are going to do no starter content, and it looks like going to place on my D drive, which is good, and we're going to call it just GearVR Twitch. So I'm going to create the project. What it's going to do is it's going to create my project. It's going to compile the code, and then it's going to basically launch me a version of the editor. So just give it a few seconds here while it generates the code, and we can actually go over to my other project here that I had to open up in the background just in case. So after the project starts, you'll be presented with the editor like you have here. And the first thing that we're going to need to do is, let me check my, my notes here. So the first thing we want to do is go to Window and go to Plugins. And in our head-mounted displays, we're going to want to enable GearVR, and we are going to want to disable any other plugins that we have here and for the head-mounted displays. And when we do that, like I can enable it and re-enable it here, we're going to need to restart the editor. And the reason we want to do this is that when we restart the editor, we'll now have the GearVR plugin available for us to use. And that's very important because we obviously need to use GearVR to develop for our device. So let's wait for this to open up again. So we'll go back and we'll check out head-mounted displays, and we see that GearVR plugin has been enabled. So that's good. That's one thing we can cross off our list. The next thing we need to do is go to Edit, Project Settings. And here we have quite a few things that we need to set up. So we're going to scroll down, and under Platforms, that is my the other one launching there. So underneath Platforms and Android, okay, we're going to want to first set the name here, the Android package name. We're going to want to set that to the name of our project. If you're using 4.7 or below, this actually has to match word for word the name of your project in C++. For right now, that says GearVR. So we need to change this to, one second here. Oh, yep, we could leave that actually as GearVR because we're in the GearVR project. The next thing that we need to do is we need to set the maximum, the maximum SDK version is normally set to 9. We actually need to set this to 19. Give me 1 second here. The computer is acting up a little bit. So we set that to 19. If it will take it, 19. There we go. Okay, there we go. The next thing that we need to enable, and this is probably the most important thing that you have to enable in the Android settings, is this checkmark box right here that says configure the Android manifest to deploy to GearVR. Basically, without this checkmark box checked, when you put your phone into your headset, nothing will happen if you have this checked. You won't be able to see anything. Your project won't work. This is one of the most important checkmark boxes that you have to check in order to get the GearVR to work. So super, super important that you remember to check this on. Other than that, pretty much everything else can be left as defaults. And the next thing we need to go down to is the Android SDK. Now, the Android SDK, you only need to set this up one time. And once you set this up for one project, all of your other projects that go from this particular engine will have these settings already pre-filled in, so you won't have to fill any of this stuff in. But basically, all you have to do is come up here and look for the location of these files right here. It says, usually it has, I think it says SDK in there, and I'm a little far away. I can't read what that says. Yeah, SDK and NDK, and you will find those wherever you happen to install the Tegra download, or I'm sorry, the Tegra Android developer toolkit. And this is just pointing Unreal Engine 4 to that location so that it can get the files that it needs. And again, once you set this up once, you never have to do it again. So that is all that you have to do in the project settings to get everything set up. The next thing that you can do, I usually like to save my map really quick just to make sure that everything is good to go. You know, save often because you never know what's going to happen. The next thing we can do is we can actually package this project up, and to do that we can go File, Package Product, Android, and we want to select ETC2. Okay, that's the Android file version that is needed for the GearVR. If you don't know which one you want, you can use all, but I highly suggest you use ETC2 because I know for a fact that this will work for the platform that we're developing for. So I'm going to click this. Okay, now it's going to pop up this box. Now this box is basically asking me where I want to put this. And I'm just going to go on the desktop. I'm going to make a new folder. And we'll call it Twitch build. Okay, and we'll press OK. And you can see down here in the corner, I have this packaging project for Android, ETC2. I can click and I can show my log and I can check out how everything is progressing. So I'm going to minimize this while this continues to build. And I want to show you guys one other thing. 1 second here, I have to actually find it. Okay, let me minimize this while it builds, and let me pull this over here. Move you over there. Okay, so these are basically the files that get generated. So you have this APK file, a BAT file, and an OOB file. The oh man, can't do the acronyms today. The APK file is actually just a fancy zip file. What we can actually do is if I press F2 on that file, and we're going to change this to zip. And if I do that, what I can do is I can actually open up the APK file and then look inside of it. And the one thing that I'm looking for here, oops, wrong one. I'm going to go back a couple. Where did it go? Ah, I know why I can't see this one in here. It's because this is the wrong version of the file. So we need to come back to Unreal 4. We'll close that guy down. And it's still packaging. So okay, our package just finished. So let me minimize this again and close that. And there we go. And what we're going to do, I just want to show you why we want to be able to go inside of this file. Because inside of this file, assets. Okay, there we go. This is how you can tell if your project is actually going to be able to go on your phone or not. When you open up that file and you change it to a zip and then you look inside of it, you should see this assets folder right here. And inside the assets folder is your unique identifier for your phone so that it will work again with the VR headset. And it's very, very, very important that this file gets added to the deployment file, because if not, your project or whatever it is that you happen to be making is never going to work on your phone. So, and the next thing that we have to do is make sure that our phone is connected via USB to a USB port in the back of our computer, and then we just click this batch file and we let it run. And then we do the stuff that I have to do most of the days, is just kind of sit here and wait for it to finish. So it takes a little while to package. Not really too much else I can say while it packages. It just needs a little bit of time. check out the chat really quick, make sure I didn't miss anything while that is going on. Plastica Man, you had a question about GearVRs related to Oculus Rift while it's on the Samsung site. Oculus helped develop the GearVR with Samsung, so that's why you see all that stuff there. You know, one of the many partnerships that's going around the industry, I guess. So, one other thing, if you can cut to the GearVR, when you put it on, if it looks super blurry, there's a little button right up here, and I don't know if you guys can see that. This will set the inner pupillary distance, basically the distance between your eyes, and you have to either adjust this, it's a little knob here, and you move it forwards or backwards, and that will basically make it clearer or crisper or non-crisp. And basically, this is how you make it go from, oh man, it looks like somebody smeared Vaseline all over my lenses, to, okay, I can actually see the game now. So, and it looks like the game is done, so I'm going to disconnect my phone really quick, and then I'm going to look for the app, which I have right here. And then what we got to do is just insert the phone. So what we do is we take this, we put it into the GearVR like that, and then voila, we just put it over my eyes, and let's see if I can see it going here. And yep, there we go. And you can tap the button on the side and the guy will shoot all of the things. So that's pretty much it. Like I said at the beginning, a lot of this initial part of this is setup and getting it started. But once you actually do that, the rest of it is very easy to set up, because once you've set it up once, most of the hard work is out of the way. Well, I've got some questions over here, so let's have a little look here. How does it work for people with prescription glasses? I wear glasses. It works okay, but it feels a little better, in my personal opinion, if you're wearing contacts. I mean, you can use it with glasses, but they do press up against the, I don't know if we can see this, but they press up against these lenses right here pretty badly. Also, you notice that my GearVR doesn't have any straps on it. Yes, it does come with straps. It's got a strap that goes around the back and then one that goes across the front. Because I have to test it so much, pulling it on and pulling it off becomes a hassle, so I just took the straps off. They're totally detachable, which makes it super easy to work with, versus like the Oculus, which is a little bit harder to work with. You don't need to wear your glasses with it. It has a focus. Well, it depends on if you're nearsighted or farsighted. If you're the one where I do believe it's nearsighted, where you can't see stuff far away, then you're going to need to wear your glasses. Because it's, even for me, it's too far away, even with the interocular to bring it into focus a little bit. It will still look really blurry to me, but that's just me. I have absolutely horrible eyes. There is one other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, and it's right under here, underneath package settings. This little checkmark box called full rebuild. Basically what this will do is, each time you go to package your game, full rebuild will basically start from zero and rebuild your entire game, which takes a long time. If you are wanting some very quick iteration, you can uncheck full rebuild, and this will just build the changes that you made, which doesn't take a very long time to do. The only caveat to this is that when you go to put your game out on the store, you need to make sure you do a full rebuild to ensure that all the functionality that you had and everything that you put into your game gets actually put back in there, to make sure that you don't have any miscellaneous errors or anything like that. Let's see what else we have here. Question: what's the frame rate of the U sample when running on the GearVR? That is a good question. I haven't actually done any FPS tracking on that, partly because it's hard to pull up the console with the GearVR the way it is inside of the headset. But what I can do is, I've got my notepad here. I'll make myself a little note about it, and I will put a little blurb about that in the document that I'm making. But I do believe it's around 30 FPS, but that's just purely my best guess at this present point in time. But I will get you some more information about that. Is Unreal making a game for Gear VR? Not at the present point in time, but I mean that could change. You know, who knows? Can you do a quick demo on how to use the camera to provide an AR-ish window in-game? Not in this session, because there's a lot of other things that would require. First off, I'd have to be able to access the camera that's on the back side of this guy, this camera right here, as well as figure out how to get the camera to see through the device. Also, you know, the device has this cover on it, which actually fits over the phone. So this particular device, whoops, and there goes my phone, might not be the best device to do something like that, but it is definitely something that we could try and see if we could get that working, or at least have the framework in place for you guys if you wanted to dive in and do that yourself or try it out. See if we can make that available for you. Let's see if I got any more questions I missed here. So, scrolling, more scrolling, more scrolling. Alright, I don't see anything else. Does anybody else have any other questions, or was there a question I didn't see? Oh, so far for input, all you have on the actual Gear device itself is there's a button right up here. This is a button, just right here. I have seen people getting things like Shield controllers or PS4 controllers so that you have something in your hand. But the only button that I know of currently is, again, this one that's on the side of the GearVR headset. So another question is, will GearVR only work with Note 4? Are there plans to fit other phones? Right now it only fits with the Galaxy Note 4 and a certain subset of that phone, and that is actually the phones that it will work with are, bring this website back up, this website right here. I'll copy and paste this into the chat. As for other phones and other devices, I mean, it says here on the website that they're currently looking into providing for more phones and things like that, but I can't really comment on when it will be available because I just simply don't know. So another question, is it possible to show videos from PC to Gear VR display? Do you mean, like, is it possible for me to be streaming something on my PC and then have that play on the Gear VR? Is that what you were talking about? If that is what you want to do, I'm not sure if you could currently do that. You know, obviously, since we do provide you with the C++, you could put it in yourself. That might be out of the scope of a lot of people's current plans. I mean, yes, you could, but I don't think you can do it right now, right out of the box. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't have a Twitch login, so there happens to be two of us in the chat. Let's see, what else do we have here? Anybody else have any other questions? Is there anything else maybe you want me to go back over, or that want a little bit more explaining? Okay, here we go. Question, is there any preview and editor is for the Oculus Rift? No, there is not, and that was why I was up till 2 in the morning trying to get all this stuff working last night. You actually have to, every time you want to test it, you have to take it out and then put it inside your GearVR, and then take it back out, plug it back in. It is a little bit of a pain. That's why, again, this feature right here, if we come up again and we go File, Pack Project, Packing Settings, and we disable full rebuild each time, we'll cut down on that iteration time and allow you to iterate a little bit faster. But yeah, unfortunately, because you can only transfer data to this via USB, and this is just a headset. There's no device in here that powers it. There's no microchips or anything like that. It's just some glasses. So yeah, you unfortunately have to detach, put it in, and then bring it back over each time you want to make a change or something like that. Okay, let's see. Will there be rendering improvements for GearVR in the next releases? I can't really comment on that because I don't know, because I don't work with the GearVR team. I write the docs with them. I can find out for you. Is there anything that you would like to see maybe as a rendering feature, or is it just kind of a question in general? Let's see what else. Will GearVR work with computer games? Now, the GearVR, that question has many different answers. The GearVR will work with the video game, but it won't work with, say, something that you play on your PS4 or something that you play on your computer. The GearVR, remember, you're using your smartphone, right? Your smartphone is the computer, so it only will work with games that you can get on your actual smartphone. It doesn't actually work with anything like you couldn't interact with the GearVR and your TV currently. That's not really what this VR device is for. This VR device is basically for apps that you make for your phone, or a movie that you would want to watch on your phone or something like that. One second here. Yeah, that would be cool if it accessed, or you could do everything over the Wi-Fi. It's something I've been thinking about the last couple of days. So question, will you make a stream showing all the VR devices, Oculus Rift, DK3, AMD Liquid, Steam VR, Morpheus, Gear VR, to show differences between them? I would love to do that. I just simply don't have all of the devices right now. As more and more become more available to us and come online, I'm sure there could be definitely some room for us to work in a Twitch stream about, developing stuff for the Gear VR versus developing stuff for the DK2 or the Crescent Bay or the Vine or something like that. So yeah, this is something we could keep definitely for the future. Anti-aliasing. Anti-aliasing is very expensive, especially when trying to run on a device that, while this device is very powerful, it's still just a mobile device, right? It's still a mobile CPU and a mobile GPU. And you have to, in order to get projects to run, you have to cut from somewhere. And one of the first things to get cut, unfortunately, would be anti-aliasing, or that would be one of the first things that I would cut. Again, I can talk with the VR development team in more depth and see if there's a way, if there's a roadmap or something that we can show you guys to, show you what rendering features we have on the way and what features are just never going to be available on the phone, because it's a phone and it just simply doesn't have the power. Let's see, question about input. VR on GearVR is more passive or gameplay that revolves around rotation plus acceleration, or aim and confirm correct. The GearVR, I would say, would be a more, it would be, I want to say, passive VR device. You basically, you put it on like this, and then you have the button over here. Yeah, over here, and then just kind of look around and press the button to shoot things. So it's not as, I wouldn't say it's as in depth as an Oculus or a Crescent Bay. It definitely gives you a good VR experience, in my opinion, but it's not as in depth as the Crescent Bay or the Vine or even the DK2. You seem to get a little more immersion in those ones, but I think that's because they are a little bit higher spec than this one. Well, I'm scrolling up for more questions. How is latency on the GearVR? So far, I haven't experienced too many latency-related issues, but I've only tested just the first-person template. At the GDC, I did get to check out some games on the GearVR, and everything that I saw that was working on it seemed to work pretty well with no latency issues. But again, it's the whole thing of you need to build content targeted towards your device. So again, remember, it's a phone, so you need to build, you need less complex shaders. You need less draw calls. You need less material IDs. You need to actually, kind of get back to the old school way of building content like they did in, the early 2000s to 2005, in order to get something that will run on the device. Is there any other questions? Did I miss something? Here we go. Question, can MFI controllers still connect to the phone in GearVR? I don't actually know what an MFI controller is, so I can't really comment about that particular question. I can find out for you though. And MFI controller. Question. So if these are the only ways to provide input, how can you make your character walk? You could use a controller to make your character walk, but again, is having a walking character the right type of character to have for a GearVR experience? Again, you have to think about what this device can do versus what another device can do. A DK2 relies on a computer, which means you are going to have a mouse and keyboard. The GearVR just relies on a phone, which uses a touchscreen. So the user isn't going to have a mouse and a keyboard available to them. So having a game where the player walks, or you have to move the character, might not be the best style of game for a GearVR type project. It might be more suited for an on-rail shooter or something, a project of that nature. Again, you need to think about designing the project you want for the device that you actually are going to be displaying it on. Question was talking about a controller. Such as a Moga. Moga? I'm not sure what a Moga controller is. I'm sorry, I only know the Shield controller and then the PS3 and Xbox 360 controllers. But looks like something I should look into. Looks like somebody else knows about it, so be more research for me to do. Yes, I agree. A shooter game would be a good game for the Gear VR, or any basically like a mech simulator, a World War II dogfight simulator. Any game where you would have to kind of just sit around in a cockpit and you know, look at pretty pictures, or I don't know, shoot people down with love, I think would be a good use of the Gear VR. As for your guys' questions about controllers, if your controller is Bluetooth compatible and you can set it up to a phone, you know, you can pair it with your phone, it will most likely end up working with the Gear VR. I don't have specifics about whether this controller will work or that controller will work. A lot of times how we do stuff here is we provide the hooks, so just as long as Unreal can read the output, then we could map those to keys. So that would be something that you would be able to do. I was waiting for the Hydra jokes. Here's one. With the tight performance requirements, could there be a way to run the profile or stats while the headset is connected over Wi-Fi? This I'm not sure if you can do or not. I don't know if they send any information or not over Wi-Fi for debugging. You can get logs and things like that from your ADB devices command line, and some more information about that will be placed in another section of the document that I'm writing about this. We'll have a tips and tricks sections. We'll go over, you know, how to profile or debug or get information off your phone or things like that. Scrolling back up, making sure I didn't miss any questions for you guys. You guys are most welcome. And gals. Guys and gals. Here we go. Question. The light of the screen phone. Real time. So the question, the light of a screen phone illuminate your eyes. Real time eyes tracking is possible at the front. I guess impact, are you talking about, would it be possible if I had my phone put into my Gear and I had the camera, I could then use the camera to track my eye movement? I don't think there's actually, I think the camera when you plug the phone in is actually covered up. Let me just double check. Yeah. We can see the camera's right here, but when you put it into your headset, if I can actually make it go into the headset, does not want to work with me. Yeah, it's going to be, the camera's going to be covered up, unfortunately, so you wouldn't be able to use the front-facing camera to look at anything, unfortunately. Let's see, how compatible would code be for GearVR versus Crescent Bay? That's a very open-ended question. Do you mean, like, is there something I'd be able to do with the Crescent Bay that I couldn't do with the GearVR? Or I don't really understand exactly what you mean by how comparable the code would be. We Unreal is device agnostic, meaning that if you have a GearVR or you have an Oculus Rift or you have a Valve VR headset, I believe it's called the Vine, those will all plug in and they'll work. We don't support one or the other. So I'm not really sure differing code bases would even really matter, but I could be wrong. It's happened once or twice before. Question: is it possible to access the speak-to-text function of the phone to get voice command input? Right out of the box, probably not. I'm going through the blueprint functions in my head, and I didn't see any text to speech, but I also didn't see any phone interaction in the blueprint system, like to access the camera or anything like that. I do believe if you wanted anything like that, like accessing the camera or text to speech, would have to be something that you would have to implement yourself. It could be something I could put on our suggestions list, but again, that's one of the beauties of having UE4, right? If you really want it, you can put in the C++ hooks for yourself and get it that way. Yeah, I think we could provide a list of known features, things that you could do right out of the box with the phone. I think we could add that into one of the sections on the document that I'm working on. It's because I was up till 2 last night trying to figure out how to get the GearVR to work. And it was because I had a file in the wrong spot. Alright, question, is it already possible to create applications that run reasonable applications at full res on UE or further Android optimization? I see. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by is it already possible to create applications that run reasonable applications at full refresh on UE4? Do you mean like when you were using it last time, you felt that the FPS was bad, or I'm not understanding your question. I mean, we're always doing things to increase efficiency or make things run faster or make things work a little easier or quicker. So there is always stuff in the works. We're always making optimizations. So I would say if you had tried Android development in the past, I could download the latest 4.7 and give it another shot. It's very, very simple stuff to set up and do. It's one of my favorite things to deploy to because it's really cool to see it working on your phone, but it's also very, very quick to get it on your phone. Oh, you mean is UE running better on Android than it was end of last year? As far as I can tell, yeah. I haven't seen any glaring issues with the testing that I've been doing. But the best thing is to just jump in there and give it a shot for yourself. It's free now, so just download it, give it a go. Looking at more questions here from you guys. I see a lot of questions here on positional tracking and how does the GearVR get its position tracking data. As far as I know, the position tracking stuff comes from what's internal to the phone. I can find out some more information about this and again write it up in the document that that we're working. Let's see, the note has S voice. Is that accessible? Again, this is, you can access other applications outside of the gear or outside of the phone, but that's not something that we have right out of the box. You know, this would be something that you would have to figure out how to get in there and utilize. It could be something that we could do in the future. It could be along with many other things, but right now, right out of the box, I do not believe you could access S-Voice just by, you know, plugging something in and then getting it to work. I think you would need to write some custom C++ code to get the hooks in order to have that work on the phone. Does that answer your question? I mean, VR has been around since the 80s, right? Everybody's been trying to get VR and push it further and further and further. Oh, I'm sorry. The question was a general question about how far do I believe that VR is success and will it have a lifespan? I think Oculus has proven to the world that VR is totally feasible for people to do. Now it just, in my opinion, comes down to developers making games for it and people wanting to use it. You know, people liked the idea of 3D TVs, but you know, they're not as immersive as a VR headset. And I think it's that level of immersion that VR gives people, you know, being able to suck you out of whatever world you're currently living you in and drop you in another world that's completely lifelike and completely immersive. I think when people start to experience this and truly experience it, it is going to be a game changer. I don't think it's going to go. I don't think it's going to go the way of 3D TVs, but that's just my best guess. With the Oculus Mobile Game Jam coming up, is there a key tip or insight that you might recommend to get the best performance from GearVR with Unreal 4? So this is another section of the document, getting the best performance out of GearVR with Unreal. A lot of things that you need to consider when developing content for a mobile device. You need to actually take a step back and think about some of the old school content creation things that you might have done. For example, like texture atlasing, you know, having one texture where multiple meshes derive their textures from it. Or instead of having, you know, 2 or 3 material IDs on an object, making that object so it has only one material ID, resulting in only one draw call. Manually grouping a bunch of stuff together in order to reduce the amount of draw calls that you have to do. You know, draw calls are one of the more expensive things that you're going to have to do you're going to have to, or one of the more expensive things your phone is going to have to do. So reducing those as much as you can would be very, very, very helpful to your overall performance. Do you think VR will cause neurological problems? Have no idea. I hope not. It's a lot of fun. Did I miss anything else? Any other questions? Again, you guys want me to go back over something or explain something in more detail, just ask in the chat, and I'll be more than glad to help you out with whatever questions you might have. Do I like the GearVR? Yep, yes and no. I mean, it's not as cool as some of the other VR devices that I've used, but I definitely see how influential this could be, especially in a country like China, where everybody has a mobile phone, and most of people's gaming or interaction with computers is done on a phone like that. So I could see that, in a country like China, I could see this becoming a huge thing over there. Let me just check my notes, make sure I covered everything for you guys. Yeah, it looks like we've gone over pretty much everything. How to get everything set up here. Oh, here we go. We got some more questions. Do you think VR is big enough that Samsung might design Note 5 more around it, i.e. dual process? Samsung could. I mean, I can't really speak for Samsung because I don't have a relationship with them like that. But I feel that as our phones become more and more powerful, the ability to have a more and more immersive VR experience, like something that you would get from a DK2 or a Crescent Bay or something like that, will totally become feasible. I mean, this phone right here is more powerful than some computers we had in the early 90s. So it's only going to go up from there. So I think as time progresses and as we see VR come more into the mainstream, then yeah, I totally think that Samsung would have some type of device that's more geared towards a VR phone-like experience. Oh, got some more messages down here. Oh, I'm catching up on the chat here. All right. So C1 here, is the hardware already at a point where we could see lots of multiplayer games? One of the things that that introduces simulation sickness or making you sick from either moving too fast are some of the things that actually you need to do quite a bit in a multiplayer game, like in Battlefield, for example. You need to be able to do a quick twitch, move to the left really fast or move to the right or something like that. The problem with doing that inside of a head-mounted display is that it can very, very quickly give you simulation sickness, which will completely ruin the experience. That's why, again, VR right now is mainly you see a lot of cockpit-based games or something where the user has a better frame of reference, because having a better frame of reference allows them to be a little more grounded in the simulation, which reduces, again, simulation sickness, which we totally don't want people to throw up all over the place. As the technology progresses and as things get better and better and better and latency goes down more and more, yes, I think you will see more multiplayer games come online, but remember that VR is still in its infancy, right? I mean, you are on the ground floor right now with VR, and it's just going to take some time, with everything else in life, and I think that there is enough buzz around VR right now that I think it eventually will take off, and who knows where it will go, but we're on the ground floor of this right now. And while you don't see a lot of multiplayer games now, I'm sure in the next 3, 4, 5 years you'll start seeing a lot more multiplayer games, and more games specifically targeted towards head-mounted displays like the GearVR or the Oculus or the Vine. Let's see. What else do we have here? So I saw some stuff about battery consumption on the phone. I haven't done anything with the phone that's very, very intensive. Like, I haven't actually just played around with it on for more than 5-10 minutes at a time, just because I've been testing things out. For this guy, let me see what his battery life is right now. He's at 100%. I can't really say, because it depends on a whole bunch of other things, like how many materials you're using, your draw calls, all that stuff that you're doing in your game, what kind of post-processing you're using. All this stuff would have a direct effect on how much CPU power you need, and that would have a direct effect on how much your battery would remain. So it's a really hard question to give you, like, if you do this, you'll have exactly 20 minutes of battery life, because there's a whole plethora of things you could do and optimizations you could make to your content to ensure that the CPU and the GPU aren't being pinged as much, resulting in you having an increased battery life. And again, this would be something that I could do a little R&D for you guys on and put into one of the documents for you. Question. Camera head tracking is automatic, or it's needed code or blueprint? For this guy, the head tracking comes right from the phone. So, and it's not as advanced as, say the DK2. So, you have movement like this, and you can go up and you can go down, but you couldn't do something like, look around the side of something like that. You couldn't look up and maybe underneath the table. You just kind of have movement like this, up and down and around. That's pretty much it. Yes, I think about the Virtual Boy every other day. I used to play it a lot on my way home from school. There was some research done about adding a nose or a little bit of your nose to your camera in order to reduce simulation sickness. I think that was on the Reddit, Oculus subreddit. It was something that I read about, but I've never had a chance to try it out yet. Maybe I'll try it out tonight, see what happens. And it's supposed to help really reduce simulation sickness, because while you don't notice it, you actually do see your nose quite a bit, but your brain kind of filters it out. And again, it's since VR is so new and it's such an immersive experience. There still needs to be a lot of testing that goes into what exactly we can do to reduce simulation sickness and to make these things even more immersive. And a lot of this comes from, we just have to study ourselves and figure out why it is that certain things that we have, like, although you can't see it all the time, your nose helps you ground the world around you. And there's a whole bunch of things like this that, we don't know about, or we don't necessarily know that it's needed, because, again, we're at the ground floor of VR. This is a new frontier. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes out in the next couple of years about reducing simulation sickness to give people the best VR experience they can have. And, again, like I said, we're just at the tip of the iceberg on things like this. Okay. All right, well, we're almost ready to wrap this up. I've got one more question here. So MGS3 had the first person view when Big Boss got his right eye popped out, losing 1/5 of the screen on the left eye. What about playing a one-eyed person in VR? Will we get the same treatment? I don't understand your question. Do you mean that, will a person with one eye still be able to have a VR experience? Yes, they will. They'll lose a lot of the depth, but that would be something that they would be used to because they only have one eye. Is that kind of what you mean? I'm not 100% sure what you mean there. So, do we have any more questions about anything else? Will there be any blueprints or templates targeting GearVR? At the present point in time, no, there's not. This doesn't mean that this could change in the future. GearVR is dependent on you making a C++ project, and that project being compiled, because it needs to compile some of the hooks that the GearVR plugin needs. It's something that we're always actively talking about this stuff. I don't know if we have any plans in the future and what those plans could entail, but it's definitely something I can bring up to the VR guys. Let's see, hold on. Let's see, question. Could you use VR for making decisions in the game, or even based on pre-specified head movements, or could activate some trigger or something? I mean, you could use VR really for whatever you want. I can't really say no, but I can't really say yes, again, because it's such a new it's such a new way of expression in the video game world that, I mean, you could do anything. I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody trying to use a head-mounted display with head movements in order to do something inside of a game. I know for the Leap Motion controller, a guy has it where if you make like the OK sign, it will actually do a VR. So if your Leap Motion is on the front of your DK2 right here, it'll use the camera and allow you to see through your DK2 basically, and he just does it by giving the OK symbol. So you could definitely do something like that. For people that have tried VR, do you get lens or other? I've never had any. The only thing that happened to me is I got really motion sick playing the CCP demo, but that's because I was going like total Top Gun, like flying up like this and then like looking over like that. And I think I just did it too much, and it made me really, really motion sick. So bad I had to take it off, and then I couldn't put a headset on for like 72 hours after that because every time I put it on, I'd be like, whoa, it's too much. I Top Gunned myself out. There are there aren't any specific VR tutorials, but that's because VR is just it's another way of viewing your world. Well, of course, we're going to work on getting more tutorials out there, but most of the tutorials that we have up on the site or that you can find on the internet or anything like that, you could use them with a VR headset. While you do need to try and design for a VR experience, I mean, you can plug a VR headset into anything, really, and get an experience out of it. Whether that's going to be a good experience or a bad experience depends on, what you're trying to hook it into. But there isn't anything that you have to do specifically like, oh, I have to use this one node in order to get VR to work. No, you can just plug in your headset into UE4. And that's one of the beauties about it, is that it works right out of the box. All you got to do is just enable the plugin, from the plugin editor. I don't know anything about the workaround to the C++ requirements to use blueprints on GearVR. We can look into that, but it's not. Don't let the C++ part. It's like, oh my God, C++. It's so scary. It's not going to get any less scary. Just kind of gotta dive in with both feet and and see what happens. I know it's a little daunting, but if you start today, you'll be one day further ahead than you were yesterday. Is developing for Gear VR like Oculus in the same sense of Oculus breaking your previous application with driver updates? I really couldn't comment on this because I haven't had any driver updates destroy anything that I've been working on. The Samsung Gear VR doesn't rely on drivers like the Crescent Bay relies on drivers, because basically what happens is if we look at the phone, your phone will be split right down the center, and you'll have your left eye and your right eye. But there's nothing that you have to do driver-wise in order to do that. If that makes sense. Soon as Nick Whiting sends me Vine VR from Valve, I will let you guys know all of the goodness about it. I've been wanting one for myself. I haven't even tried one out yet, so it's something that I've really been wanting to get my hands on. So as soon as I get my hands on it and I'm able to let people know more about it, I definitely will. So any more questions? Anybody want me to go over anything else again? I know I sound a little bit like a broken record on this one, but I'm here to help you guys out. So any questions you have about anything that we went over, feel free to speak now. You guys are quite welcome. when I browse the forums a lot. So if you have a question that you didn't think of, or something you didn't want to say, or whatever it happens to be, just post on the forums, and I will try and get to it as soon as I can. Ah, here's a good one. Is there a list of VR gotchas that we'd have to be aware of when designing a VR game uh, versus developing a standard game? There is a lot. Just off the top of my head, one, never fade to white. Fading to white will really, really, really introduce motion sickness. Plus, all of your natural defenses from a very bright light, like, putting my hand over my eyes, or burying my eyes in something like that to reduce the amount of light coming in, you can't do because you have a headset over your head. So, if you fade to white, someone might instinctively try to put their hand over the headset, knock the headset away. That's why you don't want to fade to white. The other thing that you don't want to do is you never want to take a standing player and accelerate them all the way to whatever speed it happens to be. Like, if they're standing there at 0 and then you want them to go to 100, you shouldn't just instantly put them at 100. That's another fantastic way to introduce simulation sickness. You want to gradually bring them up to the speed that you want them to be at, and then gradually bring them down. The other thing that you want to do is you never want to take camera control away from the player, or allow the player to do something that really disjoints the camera and their movement, or their head and their movement. Like, for example, if they're moving their head around like this, you don't want someone to be able to come and move their mouse, and then the mouse will actually move their head as well. So, like, they're looking this way, and then they move the mouse, that way. That is something that will introduce simulation sickness. One of the best resources that you can find, if you go to the Oculus website, there's an entire section on what causes simulation sickness and things to avoid, and they have a lot of really good R&D from there. That's where I get a lot of my information from as well. There is actually something already similar for the Rift. It's up on our website already. There's a troubleshooting guide, best practices. Yeah, I said troubleshooting already. But that's already up on the UE4 documentation site. You can check that out right now. So what about support of Google Cardboard iOS? I mean, Google Cardboard is just something that you slide your phone into. So since we support stuff on the Android, Google Cardboard probably wouldn't be that much harder to support, because you're not... The Google Cardboard is just a way to view the VR content. The main stuff comes from the things that we have in UE4 that have already been programmed and loaded onto the phone. So... All right. I'm going to take these last 3 questions, and I think that's about all we're going to have time for. So, one more question. Could you use, like, let's say VR with a game with very detailed graphics? So, remember, when you do VR, you need to run the left eye and the right eye. And you need to run the left eye and the right eye at above 60 FPS to ensure that you do not introduce simulation sickness. Because when you get tearing in the screen, that's another great way to introduce simulation sickness. I don't think we're there yet where we can have these super, super massive environments with all of this stuff that you would see in a modern game on a Rift or a GearVR. Not now, but in the future, we will be able to have these super, super, super detailed environments, as technology gets faster and faster and faster. But right now, VR is limited to something slightly small. Again, and that's because you need the power to render your left eye and your right eye. I know nothing about VR development. Do I need to get a VR development kit? If so, where do I obtain one? I mean, you can buy a DK2 right off the website, the Oculus website. You don't need a kit per se. I mean, everything that you need to develop for VR is in UE4 already. All you have to do is just sign up and download, and you're halfway there. The next thing you would need to get is some type of head-mounted display. This question. All the talk about VR, but VR is totally different from AR. How will you handle both VR and AR, like HoloLenses, or will your focus only for VR? So you're basically asking what are we going to support between virtual reality and augmented reality? I mean, again, these are devices, right? Unreal Engine is most likely going to support both, but these are just devices, right? This is like, it's kind of similar to saying like, which TV is better, a Samsung or an LG? Well, it doesn't really matter because they're both going to allow you to show content. You're both going to be able to see anything that you want to watch on them. So Unreal will still be able to do augmented reality as well as virtual reality, but how you want to do them and what you want to do with them is still entirely up to you, if that makes sense. Making an MMO is really easy. You just press the easy button and boom, you're done. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's called the MMO button. They changed that in 4.7. Just joking. Totally kidding. So I think that's it. If you guys don't have any more questions, we could wrap it up there. And just make sure I didn't forget anything. No, that looks like it's it. Well, as soon as the document is completed, I will do a release of it, and we'll put it up on the forums, or a link on the forums to the document for you guys to enjoy, and let me know if it helped you or didn't help you. Or so thanks for all the great comments, guys. I was really, really happy I could take care of this today for you. And yeah, just if any questions come up, again, just post them on the forums, and I'll have a look around, see what I can do for you. Oh, okay. Bye, everybody. See you later.